Hero.
Oh, hello, Hans. Hello, Hans Bricks.
I see lots of comments already.
Hey, Tommy.
What's going on,
Kathy
George?
Sue, Connie.
I read your article, George.
Wow.
Oh, good.
I liked it. It is important. It is important. What starts with Kolomoisky ends with the Benassis and the Bavaris, or I guess Bavari.
And I moved it up, George.
Oh, man. Game in the system.
Game in the system, right?
He's
Exactly.
playing the algorithms. He's going to beat it all.
I knew AI could be defeated. I just wasn't exactly sure how.
How.
Well, the first thing is there is no AI.
I guess that's a big part of it.
It's intelligence, but it certainly is not artificial.
I mean, and maybe that's the metaphor, Yeah. Okay, it's telling me that I need to go live, so I'm going to go live here.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, my back hurts so bad. I'm an old man now.
And there it is. How you guys doing?
Great. It's great being here with Tommy and you, Peter Duke.
That was on set. That was on set.
I just thought I'd roll a little video and let people come in. That was
I like
my
that.
thought.
I like the cutting with the other guy. I think that was fitting. Get
Yeah,
that guy to one.
that's the Club of Rome, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, do you think that that's actually accurate? Do you think that? Because I don't know. It always seems like our predictions of the future are wildly inaccurate. Like we're always convinced that we won't be able to do this. There'll never be heavier than air flight. How can we get this many people? And then we invent skyscrapers and planes and penicillin and the internet. And I think it's just my own delusion. I feel like of everything that we have just so royally gotten wrong in our history, the idea that we've just pinged, we know the number of humans that can survive on this planet. It just, I don't know. It seems a little arrogant.
A little?
To think that we know the exact number of people that this planet can hold. We're still discovering new elements. The idea that we've just...
He read it on the label.
Huh?
He read it on the label. The planet Earth, label.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's arrogant. I think, we don't, when you look at, just the ruins of things. I was talking to George earlier. I started listening to this woman that I hadn't heard before, that somebody on Twitter, I think probably one of our followers, sent me a link to a woman named Cara St. Louis. And she was talking about, her hypothesis is that the pre-Prussian education timeline of history that we've been taught is completely corrupt. That is, and the people that she was citing were kind of astronomers who were trying to reconcile astronomical phenomenon with things that happened in recorded history, and they weren't lining up. And her conclusion was that that the timeline is wrong. That is, the course of events, the way that they're laid out, are actually not correct, which is an interesting hypothesis. I hadn't heard it before. And she was talking about it on a YouTube video that I think came out in 2015, something like that. And so, to your point, I think fear, keeping a population afraid of stuff is a really great way to get them going in the direction that you want them to go in. And if you can simply change up the fear, we've seen it go from, it went from Black Lives Matter to a pandemic to, it's like changing the channels on an old boomer TV set. You just flick the channel and you move to the next fear, and you just keep your population moving in the direction that you want them to move in. So yeah, to your point, yeah, a lot of the things don't pan out. Flying cars, where are they? I mean, maybe we might get them now that the drones are getting bigger and they're putting people in them.
Peter, I think you've successfully described the ultimate night gallery terror, drone environment where you're in sort of this hotel room in space, and you have 200 channels, and every channel is Donnie O'Sullivan with CNN. Every channel is Donnie O'Sullivan with CNN. And by the time you get to channel 56, you're ready to just eject yourself into, into an asteroid belt.
Yeah,
you've had it. You're ready to call it quits.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Hoffman calls it a Videodrome. There was a movie Videodrome, and I think it might have been James Wood's first film, it's all about using video in order to keep people in a permanent state of fear. So that's my kind of long-winded answer to your question. Is that what you were getting at, Tommy, or did you have another point of view?
I don't know. I was just kind of making noise with my mouth. There was really no agenda or reasoning. There was no end point or beginning point. It was just sort of a burp in a communicable language. Do you think that the reason why there's a baby shortage formula is to force all of the vax mothers to give the spike protein to their babies? If I can just go in a completely 180-degree direction.
Well, we've already been demonetized. So,
you have?
I made sure that by playing George Carlin, we'd get demonetized. Not that I've ever made a cent from YouTube.
I was gonna say, big brain move is by never getting monetized, you can't be demonetized.
Right, exactly. Well, I've never been monetized on YouTube, so I think I've tried, and
yeah, dude. It's going to a casino and thinking.
I don't think I clicked on the right thing, and I don't think it ever actually worked.
It's going to a casino and counting cards, and you keep seeing your friends get kicked out, but in your mind you're like, they're gonna let me stay. They're gonna let me rake it in, and then finally it dawns on you, goes, these motherfuckers are gonna take me into a back room, beat the shit out of me, and kick me out. And that's what happened to me. But I don't know. Keep trying.
I'll tell you a story of a guy that. Okay, so I used to work for this guy. I've told George about him before. I don't know if I've ever talked about him on video, but I worked in this camera store, and the guy who bought the camera store was the son of a billionaire. I think his father was the president of Union Bank, and when I was hearing about Union Bank and the Bushes. Things started to connect for me. I used to fly with him in his Cessna Turbo 210 RG, retractable gear. And whenever we landed someplace, he'd always land with his wheels on the numbers, because he told me the numbers are at the end of the runway, right? And he told me that he was taught how to land on aircraft carriers, and so that he always puts the wheels on the numbers. Which, if you're landing at an airport that's got a really, really long runway, a lot of times it's a pain in the ass to land on the numbers because the taxiways are like way down the runway, so you got to taxi for a long time. But anyway, wait, what were we talking about? We were talking about. Store. Say again?
Monetized, demonetized, gambling, casino.
Oh, you were talking about
card counting. So because this guy was a card counter, and he figured out that if he flew his own plane to Vegas, they have cameras in the airports looking for the card counters, but they didn't have cameras at the airports looking at the private planes. So he would fly to Vegas in his private plane. He would walk into a different casino every time. Walk into the $100 minimum blackjack table. He would play for 15 minutes. He would win $25,000. He would take his winnings and he would leave, and he wouldn't go back to Vegas for 5 or 6 weeks. And that's the way that he kept the grift going. Like they never really caught him. And he would go to a different casino every single time that he did it.
Now you know the secret of citizen journalism. That's how we finance operations. That's the only way it can happen. But that's not what was the Vegas shooter was.
I was about to say, that's right. You beat me. Damn it! You beat me to it. You stole my thunder, Stephen Paddock. I was going to say you did more than one. Yeah. More than one thing. I think
Stephen Paddock was just running a money laundry. I think that he was just taking his money that he was being paid, and then
that's how you know that was
he'd go buy chips.
That's how you know that was an op gone wrong, because every other one they used to hammer gun control, and then that one. They just didn't touch gun control. They were like, this guy was a real meanie. Well, rest in peace. And it was like, hold on. It sounds like you listen to the audio, people dissect the audio file, and it's like this can't be a bump stock. It's a belt fed. Where did he get all these guns? And everybody's like, some people just snap anyway. And it was like, dude, there has never been an argument. 59 killed, 500 injured. And everybody is like, yeah, it's a baddie. Anyways, but then like 2 people get shot at a school and we get the whole gun control argument. That's how you know some from the up top was like, just don't. I mean, nothing ever. Think about it. Orange Man was in office, and they never even pinned this to him. Of all the bad things Trump did, they never even held Stephen Paddock, the worst shooter in U.S. history. That's how you know that was just something that went bad and wasn't supposed to go bad.
Well, I have a comment on that because when the story broke, I said when the story gets to the 40, I can't remember what floor it was, but the top 4 floors were the Four Seasons.
The Saudis were.
Yeah, and I said when the story gets to the 46th floor, call me, because everything between now and then is going to just be a big wank. Everybody's going to be wasting their time until they get to the real story, which is these Saudis who had this sort of kind of girls' club, right? There was a story in 2017. This guy named Otaiba, who was the UAE ambassador, who was basically, fanning out the girls like a deck of cards and saying, which one do you want? At that same hotel for all these sheikhs that were coming in, here's your bathrobe, here's your choice of girls, there's the limo that you can go in. It was sort of one of those operations. And 4 years later, almost to the day, they had this shooting thing. And I don't want to be one of those conspiracy theorists or anything, but it did involve a lot of oil sheikhs. And that's, I think, one of those things, kind of like 9/11, where, how did all these guys get in to the country and take all these plane lessons? And, what's going on here? So anyway, I'm not a 9/11 guy, and I'm not a Vegas shooting guy.
I'm a 9/11 guy and a Vegas shooting guy.
Yeah, me too. Fuck you.
Well, good for you.
So, no, it's interesting because, the videos that I consumed on YouTube where I got some of this information were so poorly produced that I never shared them. And whenever I tried to show them to anybody else, they were just embarrassing because I can't remember what the name of the guy is who produced them, but the information was kind of good. And at one point I thought of like downloading them and recutting them, but I thought, why bother? But the one hypothesis that I saw that made some sense is that immediately after, I believe, the Vegas shooting was that incident in Saudi Arabia where the newly appointed crown prince arrested all those guys and threw them in the Ritz-Carlton as a prison and then shook them down. Yeah. The story that I heard was that he was there in Vegas, and that there was an attempt on his life, and that the shootout was some way of covering by either the people who were trying to assassinate him or some other scenario while he was evacuated.
Yeah, that Paddock was providing the weapons. And the hit team was going to arrive, go to Paddock Street, get the goodies, bum rush the upstairs, and take out the new king. Something went wrong. Either someone in Trump's intel community tipped them off. For whatever reason, they got word of it. They got evacuated. And before the FBI or whoever could break down Paddock's door, they're like, fuck this shit. A multi-man team fired into the crowd, and then they iced Paddock, and they vanished. And there's only one guy that saw Paddock, that security guard, and he only ever gave one testimony on Ellen with his handlers and no one in the crowd. Jose Ramos. Yeah, man, I mean, now granted, that's all high octane speculation, but it never came up. Like, that's how you know it's absurd. It was just Paddock up, just guy gone wrong. Girlfriend lives in the Philippines near all these like ISIS camps, but don't worry about it. Paddock owned a plane, and before he owned that plane and after before he owned the same plane with the same tail number that before him was registered to the DOD. Just another coincidence. I mean, no cameras in a place where they have cameras in airports seeing the car counters come in, but Stephen Paddock by his lonesome, just carries 21 long. I mean, get the fuck out of here.
But George believes everything the FBI tells him.
Yeah, because I'm usually in an interrogation room when they're telling me. But
So
I
for
won't
legal
go into the
reasons,
January-
George has to not comment for legal reasons.
Well, there was this gal at Santa Monica police station. She was a trainer. She was recruiting really beautiful girls that looked really great in bikinis in Santa Monica. And 4 years before, she had taken this bus of these girls to this hotel where Otava was an article called Diplomatic Underground, where Otava was and bringing these girls in. And they were all drugged and raped. And they signed this thing called Dumbo Drop. It said, like, I fill in stupid girl's name here, consent to whatever happens to me tonight if I'm, whatever. Literally, it said, I insert stupid girl's name here. And interestingly enough, 4 years later, that same police lieutenant, outreach woman, brings those same girls from Santa Monica Beach, the girls with exciting bikinis, to Las Vegas. I always find those kind of similarities and coincidences interesting. But there you go. And I'm not a big shooting guy, so I'm stopping now.
Like Tim Dillon says, there are.
Is this what we're talking about, George?
Yeah, Diplomatic Underground, and he was really good friends with Mike Morrell.
How do I get rid of this pop-up here? Join the newsletter? I don't want to join the newsletter.
You can't. You have to join the cult.
This Diplomatic Underground story, I remember I did it in front of the Navy Yard because I was covering the Navy Yard shooting. But this was way before the shooting at that hotel. But this story here is about that hotel and about the girls that he would kind of splay out in front of all these Arab sheikhs. So it was just interesting that the shooting happened at that exact same hotel. And this was, I think, one of Pierre Omidyar's, The Intercept, I think, had this article, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's where we are, Pierre Omidyar.
So I believe everything. And the other thing I thought was interesting, here they are. There you go.
Is that Jeff Sessions?
If you walk into a room with two
Robert Gates, Rick Olson, Robert Gates. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever walk into a nice, lavish room like this with two old white guys in suits and two guys in traditional Arab garb, this is definitely the last thing you're seeing. This is the last thing a lot of people have seen throughout the decades. Whether it's Robert Gates or whether it's Rumsfeld and Gaddafi, that's the last thing. Kind of like in Goodfellas when Pesci walks in the room and just goes, "Oh no," and then they blow his head off. That's the last thing that a lot of people have seen. Walking in, two old white guys in suits and two Arabs. You go, "Oh shit."
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, I was driving through the valley the other day past the old Hilton, which is now a Marriott, and I pointed out to producer Carrie that that's where Ted Gunderson claimed that he met Osama bin Laden. Right there at where the 405 and the 101 intersect in the San Fernando Valley. So, go on.
I was gonna say the amount of coincidences surrounding the Vegas shooting. I know you're a Tim Dillon fan. It's like what Tim Dillon says about coincidence. You know how like John Hinckley John Hinckley's family was having dinner with Neil Bush like the night he fired at Reagan, like that coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that we were like,
and it was on the front page of all the newspapers.
Yeah, that the Secret Service just wasn't on like the back of JFK's Cadillac, or just all of these things, or that the guy that they had a file on Lee Harvey.
What about that bill? According to Roger Stone, the White House aide who had the bulletproof top taken off of the Lincoln Continental was Bill Moyers.
Yeah, and the head of CIA counterintelligence, James Jesus Angleton, had a file on Lee Harvey starting in 1959, 4 years prior. I mean, on the morning of September 11th, 2001, we were running a war game called Vigilant Guardian, where we were war gaming out commercial airliners getting hijacked. As Tim Dillon says, those are not coincidences. A coincidence is when you're on a cruise off the coast of Florida and you're from Brooklyn and you meet someone else from Brooklyn. That's a coincidence. These are not coincidences.
Well, I'll tell you something that is a coincidence.
Coincidence is when you meet someone else with the last name Webb, not when every person involved with the Wuhan virus's last name is Benassi. That's not a coincidence.
Thank you. Because here's the thing. There is royal throne treatment. They call it royal throne treatment. When if you are ever picked up at a villa owned by Italian royalty, and I'm talking about gigantic place where you're you're at a stable that can easily host like the Shriners National Convention. That's just the outbuilding. This isn't even the main building. When a guy from Ferrari's team, the racing team, comes and gets you in a black SUV with a flat 12, drives at 180 miles.
Mercedes S-Class.
Okay,
Yeah.
and he drives you at 180 miles an hour, and you
Yeah.
never felt so safe. And then you are ushered quickly into a ballroom full of people cheering you, introducing you as Peter Duke from Hollywood, right? And then they put you on the chair, hoisting you in celebration. That's not a coincidence either. But dial the clock back, dial it back 100 years. Who's in that same chair in that same town near Modena? Francesco Benassi. And he promises to get the papal lands back for the Pope. Is that a coincidence or not? I don't know.
And what do you think the Pope wants to do with those papal lands? Is there uranium?
It's prime real estate. I just think that the Pope likes land. When you go from, let's look at the papal states just for 1 second. We're talking like all the way to I don't know, not just Modena, not just Reggio Emilia, not just Bologna, but then all the way down the coast. You got a heck of a lot of coastline here. Then all the way back around to Rome. In Pius IX, right? He doesn't lose just a little bit of it. He loses the whole kit and caboodle, including Rome, including where he lives. He can't leave, neither can Pius X. They can't leave their house without stepping in somebody else's land, the king's land. So wouldn't you want some of that back? At least,
So you could take a walk?
You couldn't even, they called him prisoner of the Vatican because he couldn't even take a walk. That's right.
Right.
So, and now comes, and now 1871, that happens. Who do you name? Who does the Pope name as a cardinal in Reggio Emilia? Francesco Benassi. Interesting. Would you name somebody who was going to get your land back, or would you name somebody who's going to go, hey, Pope, land does slip through the fingers of, the holy eminences. Remember, too.
You mean it's not about saving souls, George?
I just want you to remember that Pius IX said that's when popes became infallible. So if you lose your land, somebody wronged you, did you bad. So I'm just throwing it out there as you have the Peter Duke experience, the Ferrari racing team, the hoisting of him.
Sure. But like I said earlier, I think when they did it to him, they were probably holding up a throne. I was like on a cafe chair.
But still, it happened.
Yeah.
They'd done it before. That's not a coincidence. Like Tommy says, it's not like you're from Pacific Palisades too, Francesco Benassi? No, there's something very, very important about this, and I don't want to miss it.
All right. I am going to complain one more time out loud. I use a backup service called Backblaze, which I turn off, and then it turns back on magically. and there's no way for me to back up my computer and manage my live streams without going insane. So I apologize to anybody if my signal has digressed, but I turned it off before I started, and then it started again, and I just turned it off again. So I'm apologizing here in the middle of our live stream. Sorry, this isn't very professional.
It was all Zelensky.
Peter, if that had happened to me 100 years after that had happened to Francesco Benassi, I would be looking around the room too. So I don't blame you for having background problems.
Actually, that's a conspiracy I hadn't thought of, that they're doing it to me on purpose. They're just like flipping the channel on me. It's...
Oh, George, I do have to say, on a side note, so I interviewed an author the other day, Peter Dale Scott, I think is his name. He's 90.
Yeah. Wow. You got that
Peter Dale Scott?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
So I just read his book by chance, an email. I had no idea it was 93. And we were talking, and, he told me beforehand, he goes...
It's like calling Noam... It's like saying, I interviewed Noam Chomsky.
I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know. I'd never heard of him before. But before we start recording, he goes, you have to excuse me. He's like, I'm 93 years old. My memory is not what it used to be. I was like, sure, I got you. That dude was so sharp. I told him after we finished recording, maybe it's not professional to say what I talk about on and off air, but I was like, dude, your memory was incredible. But so he was going through all this, he was naming dates and articles from the 70s and different lines of like Ukrainian bloodlines. But at some point he starts bringing up a Ukrainian general, an arms manufacturer. And he was like, and I don't know if you've heard of him. And I only remember one name just because I follow your Twitter, George, but I go, Kolomoisky, just kind of guessing. And he goes, impressive. He goes, how do you know that? And I go, I interview a guy called George Webb. And that was just, I could have been completely wrong, but I was like, I know like two names from George, and it's like Kolomoisky or Benassi. And I was like, I'm just going to go shoot. So I got to sound so smart. I was like, oh, yes, of course, General Kolomoisky. And he was like, incredible. And I was like, and I literally said on the podcast, it's George Webb. I interview a guy called George Webb. But he was super cool.
Well, yeah.
I based my whole series in 2016. The whole baseline was Peter Dale Scott.
Oh, really?
So you don't do 9/11, you don't do Vegas shooter, but you do JFK? Is that the deal?
Peter Dale Scott is so much more.
We literally did a podcast on his book, The Road to 9/11.
Yeah.
Specifically talking about Cheney.
Yeah. I avoid 9/11 and so forth because people immediately put you in the box and go, okay, conspiracy theorists.
You can't give a shit about that. You have to pursue truth no matter how absurd it is.
Believe me, I do that.
I know
every
you.
day,
I know you know. I'm not to preach to you. I know you know.
But the thing about Peter Dale Scott,
George has been deplatformed.
Yeah, I know. I'm like people trying to kill. I know. No, I'm realizing as I say these words, I'm like, I'm telling Michael Jordan, I'm like, you got to practice your jumper, and he's like, bitch. Yeah. So no, let me take those words back. I know you.
No, it's all good. No, I just want to say though, there's so much more to Peter Dale Scott than like Alex Jones kind of made his salt on 9/11. Peter Dale Scott goes all the way back to Osama bin Laden and, using these, sort of fake Muslims and these terror campaigns, as Peter mentioned, keep people in a constant state of fear. The whole idea of terrorism and Muslim terrorism is just this construct to put you into a receptive state to give the deep state all kinds of surveillance. So he is such I'm so proud of you, Tommy.
He really is.
Getting
He's a
these
big name.
Fantastic interviews. That's awesome.
I'm kind of thank you. I'm kind of embarrassed. I didn't know how big of a name. Like getting Richard Rhodes. Like I understand the gravity of like Richard Rhodes. I'm like, this guy's a legend. I legitimately hadn't heard of Peter Dale Scott. Now I kind of feel embarrassed.
You shouldn't feel embarrassed. I mean, again, it's pulling the curtains back, like George says. It's like when I first started watching The Finger, going around the PowerPoint slides and George connecting the dots, I was thinking, how does he know all of this? Where does all of this come from? And then I find out after, watching John O'Loughlin, people wrote books about this stuff. like
Sure.
and George and Tommy has a list on the Duke Report now. There's a Tommy Carrigan list. There's a George Webb list for people who want to catch up, right? You want to go read a few books so that you want to be on the same page, at least on a couple of chapters. The books are there. So,
yeah.
Well, I tried to give Peter Dale Scott and William Engdahl were the two, that I really gave a lot of credit to when I first got started. And I basically use that as a platform, and then I dig from there. And he had done a lot on Pakistan, drugs, war, and oil, and that whole kind of odd, crime triangle that these guys all seem to share. And just that concept right there alone.
I could try to get you on with him.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
I'll make a note of that right now. I don't know if it'll work. Let me.
Oh, I love that.
I normally make these kind of I normally make these propositions when I'm like not recording. So on the off chance that it doesn't work, I don't feel like an asshole. But yeah, I'll make a note of it.
Oh, tremendous honor that would be. And I just think that he was a Canadian diplomat, I believe. And for 30, 40 years before he ever put pen to paper for the first time. So he really had, he's the real deal. Alex kind of came into it and said, well, I'll juice this story with 9/11, and he did a good job.
Yeah.
But it was kind of always, I don't want to say shock journalism, but he was always looking at the numbers. He was always looking at the views, even before the internet, social media. Peter Dale Scott wasn't like that. He wrote books.
Well, he's a Berkeley. He's a professor emeritus of history at Berkeley.
He wrote books
and English professor.
So he wasn't interested in necessarily the things that motivate most people on YouTube. He really wanted to get the history down so people understood really what was happening, and that's why I respect him so much. And Engdahl's the same way. Yeah, Engdahl's in Germany. I probably need to go visit him too.
Yeah, Alex Jones. I mean, he is always right, and he does a lot of great work. But he's also very clearly. I mean, he's running a business. He's looking at so do I. I look at it too. But yeah, there's definitely you can tell there's a difference. I mean, Peter Dale Scott came on my show. He did say that he normally doesn't do interviews, but he saw in my email that I told him, because I always put in emails to potential guests, how come the podcast isn't on YouTube? Because that often comes up when they're like, hey, I can't find you on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, I was perma-banned. A lot of people they get cold feet. They're like, why were you banned from YouTube? And so I always have to explain it was for interviewing McCullough and Malone and not because I'm up there doing some Nazi salute. But he said the only reason why he responded to my email is because I had been permanently banned from YouTube. And he said that was a badge of honor. And I was like, fuck yeah. So.
Very good. Very good. In fact, maybe that's a new hoodie design.
Banned from YouTube?
Banned from YouTube, yeah.
Dude, I've had more people come on. I've had more, like, big-name guests I've had on tell me beforehand. Like, you really got banned from YouTube? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's why I responded. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's like
right.
It's like I don't know. Like
I just thought I'd turn you on to this resource. Richard Grove has this thing called The Brain. And if you type anybody's name into it or any kind of conspiracy, it'll give you all of the things that he's researched that are connected to it.
Whoa!
So it's an amazing
badass.
Yeah. So if you want to do a little quick research on someone before you do a podcast, it's a great resource.
I love The Brain because the connected dots thing and so forth, the visual display and so forth. The Brain is also one of those programs that doesn't go away. It wakes up when your computer wakes up, and it's hard to get rid of The Brain once you get it on your computer. But that's just an aside.
And this is another like weird Peter Duke overlap. But when I was working at News Corps, the Harlan Hugh, who invented The Brain, came in to visit me because he was trying to get us to use it as the interface for, all the Fox properties. And while I think it's great for doing network analysis, I have some navigation issues with it. Richard Grove seems to have figured it all out, and in ways that I haven't. But I still find it really useful, like when I'm trying to research something, to go Go look it up on the brain. And it's hard to find on Richard's site. So if you go to the Duke report under search engines, it's Richard Grove's brain is a link there.
That's amazing. Now, does he make all these? And if you type,
he made this.
So it's not something that like I couldn't type in Tommy Carrigan and it would like model something. Yeah,
but Tommy Carrigan can start his own brain, and Tommy Carrigan can create his own thing. And I think you may be able to actually connect it to other brains. I'm not sure.
I wasn't sure if it was something that happened like natural, like you could type in a name and it would model it.
No, all of these links Richard Grove has put in there.
I'm sure the NSA has got something wonderful. You type in a name and it models it for you.
Yeah, it's called Palantir.
Yeah.
It
probably gives you the location of the nearest drone.
Yeah. Well, and
remove,
and,
yes,
and
no.
Promise was before that, and definitely they're way out front with it. Whatever we think we have, they're way out front with these tools.
You can type in George Webb and it tells you where the nearest Reaper drone is.
Yeah, MQ9. Get 'em.
Remove, yes, no. It's not today. Remind me tomorrow. You can say remind me later, or remind me tomorrow, or remind me next week. Reminder: it's the first of the month. Would you like George Webb removed? Let it run.
Yeah, literally, figuratively, like.
Yeah. No. I mean, no.
There's a sliding scale,
No, yeah, it has little reminders, and it's like it's the first of the month. You haven't removed any journalists lately, and you're like, I'm not today. I got to fill out a bunch of paperwork, and it's every once in a while we'll all be together, and it's like target of opportunity, and it's like, ooh, I could get a raise with this one. Take out Tommy and Webb.
I thought about that a lot, about how convenient it was after the COVID thing happened, and people started meeting virtually. You didn't get everybody in the same room at Davos anymore, which would be like a really convenient place to nuke if you wanted to kind of take care of things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think.
And again, I'm not a proponent of violence, and I have no nuclear weapons.
I was going to say I don't know how.
I have a pitchfork on my wall with a scope and a laser.
Violent threats can be if we're talking about nukes. We don't have. I was going to say on that note, and then I'll let George talk. Is Tim Kennedy, that former Green Beret, like last August, whenever we were withdrawing from Kabul, and remember the Taliban was posting pictures, and they were like all at that embassy. Tim Kennedy was like, so they're all right there, just in one spot, telling us they're there. Interesting.
Well, now that you bring that up, you're talking about the famous Joe Biden pullout, leaving covert weapons for the next 50 years in Afghanistan.
Biggest
I think
arms deal ever.
Yeah, every one of these pictures looks like Peter Duke and The Last Supper. It's the Last Supper picture. If you look at that picture of those, it's the Last Supper. It's Peter Duke with all the shaft lighting right out of Dali. It's Peter Duke. Peter, can you bring us that picture of these guys?
Wait, why are you saying Peter Duke?
Peter Duke,
because I become the generic placeholder for all.
I didn't know that.
For all photographers that know what they're doing with the camera. There's millions of us, but
I thought George was
okay. So how do I find this, George?
Well, if you look at the terrorists that were meeting and negotiating with Biden over the billions and billions and billions of dollars of weapons that we left, and they're all sitting around this table, like Tommy's saying, with bandoleros of machine gun bullets, just every Hollywood trope that you can squeeze into one photo, and they're all like Tommy's saying, they're all there. Why wouldn't we drone that place?
Yeah.
And it looks just like The Last Supper with the lighting. It reminded me so much of the Azovstal guys, and I said they hired Peter Duke.
They hired somebody in DC. The people who do propaganda, they have a really nice name for them. They call them public affairs. So there was some public affairs person who did that. Okay, I've written down. Typed in Islamists negotiating with Biden. Should that get us to?
Yeah, and I would say retreat from Afghanistan or
okay.
I don't know, Afghanistan pullout or whatever they called it. But there was 2 images that really these images kind of stick to your mind, sort of like Forrest Gump moments, and make up your internal history track that you play back to yourself. One of them was these guys all sitting around the thing with the Last Supper table. And then the other image was people hanging on the C-47 or the C-130 and trying to get, sort of like the last images of Vietnam where they were all hanging off the helicopter. And these are just so staged events, but they're...
Well, I don't think the guys hanging off the landing gear were staged. I think those guys died.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, it's like, how could you have a mobile, trolley cam of that with, perfect, getting the sweat on their faces and the terror on their faces, close-ups? How could you possibly have staged it that Hollywood-esque? I don't know.
It might have been that there was a ton of photos and you choose that one. Like you can always see how they'd frame Trump. It was always like from the bottom looking up. You always want, because that's like the least flattering image of anyone, is like looking up. You see like their chin. They'd always frame it so he's more orange. And versus like you can tell when they have like some politician they like, there's always this sort of like light gleam behind them. It's the halo effect. You can always do that stuff. So that's a huge part. I think just kind of as an aside, the most absurd or the most, I guess, I don't know, just weird similarity was the images of the guys falling off the C-130 and just how much they looked like the 9/11 jumpers. Just like the
I found this one, George, and it's lit very nicely, but this is natural light.
That's pretty good. That's
That's such a shitty movie outtake.
Joe Biden, it's probably the only I don't know. It's a shitty movie outtake is probably like the best description I can imagine.
That's what this is.
The caption to this one is, "How many did we leave behind?" This makes it look like a moment at Reykjavik. Like some great decision was made and we saved the world. This was one of the most ignominious retreats ever, where we left, $100 billion worth of military hardware. How can you do that? I can't even imagine.
It was an arms deal. It was an arms deal.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tommy's right. I think when I found out that there was a pallet of money involved, like they left a pallet of money.
We left a ton of arms to the rebels and the Taliban and Al Qaeda, so that when we came back home and started shutting down oil leases and forced everyone to buy electric cars, that would drive up the need for lithium. And where all the lithium is in Afghanistan, and they're now armed to the teeth. Oh boy, we got to go in there and liberate the lithium for another 20 years.
You know what else? That's an awesome comment about lithium, because it's true. And a lot of the coal mines in America have lithium deposits. And the Donbass, it turns out coal and lithium.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, it's the Donbass. There's a huge lithium corporation of Ukraine. I'm not kidding. It's
is
like
when
Elon
you meet
Musk.
someone else from Brooklyn.
Elon Musk is the last person in the world that you should trust for anything. He's Klaus Schwab's illegitimate child. I just don't know who the mother is. But the mother was not a supermodel.
I mean, but doesn't that seem like it is? Like, what were they all?
You know who I think the mother might be is Christiane Amanpour of CNN.
Ooh.
The mother of who?
Of Elon Musk with Klaus Schwab. I think Christiane Amanpour.
Okay, I don't even know where to go with that one.
I'm just saying, you can't fight the bloodlines.
I love how George will steer clear of 9/11, but he'll just go out, just guns blazing. Like, I know who Elon Musk's his real mom is. It's like, I didn't even know this was a conspiracy theory.
Well, if there wasn't one there before, George, we'll make sure there's one when we're done.
Well, I'm saying, come on, guys. Elon Musk, right? And he supposedly, I was reading a comic book about space, and then I became a billionaire. And with Falcon 9, and then I bought Twitter and drove up the price. And oh, by the way, I'm not really going to buy Twitter, so I just drove up the price for all of our insiders. And then they rumored I was going to buy YouTube, drove up the price for the insiders so they could dump their stock. And then I became a monk. I don't know. Every breadcrumb that is thrown out about Elon Musk, everybody on the alt media just slops up so quickly. He's the last guy in the world. He's Elon Musk personified. You talk about Club of Rome, right? Wasn't there a bank in Rome that was somehow involved in some shady dealing called the Vatican Bank?
The Vatican Bank, which is right, which we talked about earlier, is sovereign even beyond the Vatican. Like they're their own. The Vatican Bank is its own country. Like the Vatican is its own country, and the Vatican Bank is its own country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this and the Bank of Rome too. I mean, this is like, revolutions are us, overthrows are us, and we have to meet every once in a while to figure out. We all get on the same page to all do the inside trading together. This is Klaus Schwab with Henry Kissinger. This is not a secret, right? So, how does Elon Musk get all of his money? Do we have all the money? With Klaus Schwab come out and say, hey, my dad did flamethrowers for Hitler. We processed a lot of paperclip Nazis into national laboratories in America. We did portable nuclear labs. Hey, this is what we do, and that's how I made all my money. Hitler's best.
Did he do flamethrowers? I thought he did turbines for hydroelectric dams.
Later on, Sulzer Bingham later on, but before that, his father did flamethrowers for Hitler.
Okay.
Now, you want to talk about a musical that Mel Brooks might have missed. Flamethrowers for Hitler. It became my first love. Just singing about flamethrowers in springtime.
We got some new Elon tweets.
Yeah, Elon tweeted this 2 hours ago. Whoever thought owning the libs? Now, this is a red flag for Peter Duke. When I see a term like I beat Benny Johnson up about it all the time. Whoever thought owning the libs would be cheap never tried to acquire a social media company. So the red flag for me is like owning the libs, because that immediately drops you into this dialectic, right?
Yeah, the buzzing of the.
And so my comment. Go on.
Well, I'm just saying, Elon Musk also sold a low-cost consumer flamethrower. It ties them together. I mean, how many people sell flamethrowers?
Coincidence is two people from Brooklyn meeting each other on a cruise ship.
Again, George won't touch Stephen Paddock, but he's like, Elon sold the flamethrower. Unequivocally,
Elon sells flamethrowers.
No, he does.
And
Klaus Schwab's father sold flamethrowers. Like, I never thought about it before, George, but that's such a
flamethrower family.
That's such a troll. Like, that's so trolling the universe there. So yeah, Elon Musk, whoever thought owning the libs would be cheap, never tried to acquire a social media company. And my comment back, which I'm sure he doesn't see because there's probably 100,000 comments, are libs believe in liberty. Whoever they are, they're not libs. America is a conservative country, but the values they are trying to conserve are liberal: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. I didn't write that. C. Wright Mills. That was a C. Wright Mills idea. And I have a problem with the dialectic. Anytime somebody tells you that there's only two ways to solve a problem, it leaves the infinite number of other ways to solve the problem out of the conversation. And I believe that that's just a form of mind control.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put flamethrowers aside for a second. How about transhumanist chips in your brain?
Absolutely.
How many people run around saying...
Absolutely. I'm on your side 100% on that.
You don't need to take a little time off and vacation or slow down your backswing for your golf. You need a chip for your brain. That would really solve a lot for you.
It's like that meme where it's like, it's Bill Gates. We're all like, fuck, no, you're not giving me your mRNA vaccine. I won't do that. And then it's like Elon literally saying, I want to put a chip in your brain. And we're all like, yeah, the meme lord. And it's like, there's not even like speculation, at least with like Klaus and and Gates, you have to still kind of speculate. You have to be like, I mean, they're very clearly trying to like give us digital IDs and track us. Elon's just openly saying like, no, here's my company. Here's my tests. I'm putting a chip in a brain. Like, it's out in the open. And everyone's just like,
AI?
yeah.
Here's
Well, on
another
May,
AI.
on May 3rd, this story was featured as the headline story on the Duke Report, which is how Elon stacks up against Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. And if you look and see how he lines up with
I saw that.
carbon tax, universal basic income, mRNA, myocarditis injections, transhumanism, and one world government, it's like bingo. You know, you get 5 in a row.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Who paid you to keep flamethrowers off the list, Peter? You're repressing flamethrowers.
I did not make this list. Technocracy News made this list. I only linked to it. The Duke Report.
Okay, I got another one.
Okay.
I got another one. How about, hey, we're going to cut the internet off. We're going to have a kill switch for the internet. And that's why I invested in all these Starlink satellites.
Yeah.
So you schmucks will be in the dark when we decide to do the FEMA camps.
Yeah.
He flat out says it. We need to have communications among ourselves when you guys are all cut off from internet and food, water, and light.
Yeah.
Honey pot, slaughter pen.
You could use one of my flamethrowers to briefly light your way to the FEMA train.
So Mike Cernovich bought one of those flamethrowers, and I went over to his house and I photographed him.
My friend has one. They're pretty unimpressive.
You know what? They kind of aren't, and the reason is because the tank doesn't hold very much gas. They basically use I think the same kind of butane that like a Coleman stove uses or something like that. And you give it 10 good blasts and
That's
it's
what
done.
I mean. It's a roofing torch.
Is it?
He literally when he went on Rogan for the first time, that's what he said. It's a roofing torch, and they just put like a sheathing on it. That's all it is.
Papa Cone wants to know what our radio call signs are.
The hell's a radio call sign?
Kilo Mike 6 Hotel November Oscar is my ham call sign, and WRJR 864 is my GMRS call sign. There you go.
Do I have a radio? Do I have something that I don't know of?
I don't know. I got my ham radio license because George told me that Nellie Orr had a ham radio license, and I was thinking, why does Nellie Orr have a ham radio license? What is it that I don't know about ham radio that I need to know? And the only thing that I could come up with was digital modes, which is that a lot of people don't realize that you can actually send things like email with ham radio using things called digital modes. And so that's what I learned after I got my ham radio license. And I have a radio that's capable of doing digital modes, but I haven't taught myself how to do it yet.
Well, take heart. It's a good thing. Here's the thing, right? She's MITRE, right? MITRE Corporation comes out of JSON, right? This is not conspiracy theory. These are all the Nazi guys coming together.
Scientists.
July, August, September, October, November. And MITRE comes out of that because somebody figured out the month mean, right? So she's still bringing these people in. But what do you do when there's somebody who comes in?
You're talking about Nellie.
Nellie, yeah. With Peter Strzok, Lisa Page works for her.
And Lisa Page is doing the paperwork, right?
Well, they were bringing in Iranian nuclear scientists or people in the different dark weapons. Or putting them in Battelle labs, that were doing all these weapons, and then they're farming them out to Iran. Then Iran farms them out to everybody, like Ukraine or whatever. So this is how we do it, right? This is how we create terror in America: is we farm it out to a foreign power, and then we have them zap us every once in a while to scare the bejesus out of us. Okay, so that's Nellie Orr. Of course, you would want encrypted radio for doing that kind of business.
Well,
you would not want to do a taxi radio for that kind of business.
So technically, encrypted, you have to have a commercial license, and ham is not commercial. But you can, if you have a commercial license on commercial bands, you can do encrypted radio. But ham is not encrypted. So the only thing that I could think is that it might be encoded. Although encoded is technically illegal, I don't believe that there is an FCC police force that goes out and arrests people for sending encoded digital messages, because first of all, they'd have to go pick them up, and I'm not sure that the NSA is necessarily paying any attention to that, although they might. But if you're working for the NSA and then you're doing it, then they're not really going to catch you, are they?
Right. And no real spy worth their salt is going to go, hey, spy one, come in, meet down there at Peter Strzok's, lunch club, down there in Georgetown.
Right.
They have a thing where they call keying the repeater, where you just go like that. And when you hear the double click or the triple click, you all know, hey, let's go down to, Georgetown at Peter Strzok's. I can't remember I went down to the Italian restaurant Biden used to meet with, and Hunter Biden used to meet with all their so-and-sos. But you get the idea, is that you don't want to use normal phones and things that the NSA is crawling all over. You want to use some kind of out-of-band or not expected method of communication.
Sure, and the old school way of people communicating with each other is that they've got code words. So they may say, how was your lunch today? And it's like, well, I had the salami sandwich. If it was the Paul Revere, right? One if by land, two if by sea, two lanterns. It's like you have your communication tells already prearranged, and then it just sounds like you're having a normal. John Podesta famously talking about hot dogs and a map on his handkerchief, and
walnut sauce,
and no reporter ever asked him, hey, what did you mean by pizza and hot dogs in those emails that were
weapons deals? Those maps were all weapons deals on the back of handkerchiefs. So
if they were weapons deals, was the child trafficking the
discredit,
the throw, as it were, to get people? So you got everybody looking out at
looking for
these people are doing terrible things to children, but what they're really doing is that they're just moving giant weapons caches around.
Yeah, Podesta, with the Holy Father thing and the Pope thing, and they brought the Pope, and I can't remember Clancy. Remember, he ran the Secret Service. Those guys were just so like soldiers of the Pope. They were always looking for another country to overthrow. And can't we run another overthrow through the Vatican Bank, please, please, please? Joe, and they ran it through Joe. It looked like they ran it through Joe and Hunter's BlackBerry. Unfortunately, Obama's BlackBerry couldn't even call for pizza. They only had 20 calls he could make. It was so dumbed down. It couldn't have been Obama's BlackBerry. But Podesta has a huge, long history in Ukraine with Paul Manafort. That all got swept under the rug. That's why I sued Podesta in this. Now we're uncovering some of that with Sussman, with this Durham investigations, getting into a little bit of that. But those guys were all involved in these covert actions. If you look back in 2014, Podesta was all over that overthrow in Ukraine with Manafort. All those guys got turned into heroes, and they got plugged into the Trump campaign. So I'm sorry to get off Elon Musk. Flamethrowers are more fun.
No, that's okay. While we were talking about money laundering, I was thinking, well, what's going on Whale Alert? I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Whale Alert, but Whale Alert is, what people don't realize, about Bitcoin is that, there's this myth that all these transactions are anonymous. The only thing that's anonymous are who the wallet owners are. But as we all know, wallets in a lot of cases are attached to IP numbers or IMEI numbers or MAC addresses. So the idea that any of these things are actually anonymous is kind of laughable. But just in the last 19 minutes, somebody moved $204,830,398 from one wallet to another. Somebody moved 49. Oh, it looks like hubby. So this is almost $300 million.
Well, no, the first one's hubby to something else, and then the other two are something to hubby.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I got to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay, and so anyway, yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing, because when you see hundreds of millions of dollars kind of floating around like this, an hour ago this is $348 million, and then 2 hours ago $28 million, and then 2 hours ago $29 million. Like, it just goes like this. Like, you could just keep scrolling like this, right? There's hundreds of millions of dollars in the crypto world just like moving around, and this has got to be deals, right? This has got to be people. I mean, it's not just speculators who are buying a shit coin and then driving it up. Although, there was an intrigue last week. Did you hear the intrigue about how Bitcoin got crashed last week?
And no, tell me that.
I need to, maybe producer Carrie can go find me there's a, I think it's a tweet. You might be able to find it in my timeline. Apparently, I think BlackRock and the company that owns, is it Robinhood? What's the name of there's kind of a populist
Robinhood.
So Robinhood and BlackRock, they bought like $3 billion worth of one coin. We'll get the. I think Elon Musk actually tweeted about it also. Anyway, there was some intrigue. I don't have the details nailed down, but basically they bought something and then they sold something, and it wound up triggering a massive sell-off in the market, and it dropped Bitcoin by 40% in a day. And it seems to have been engineered. And Elon Musk was questioning whether or not it was done on purpose or not.
If you have any kind of force multiplier for social media, Jeff Prather calls them, force multipliers, where like a Berge, Patrick Berge talked about, the clear force type thing where you have 100 bots that can do anything. Mm-hmm. If you're Elon Musk, you could just make billions all the time on insider rumors, just creating just fake demand curves and watching them bottom out and buying at the bottom. I mean, it's like a Rothschild bingo, It's like, where would you stop? I mean, it's just like, I could punch this button and get $100 million every time I want.
Okay, so Ham Solo says Terra Luna, which crashed, has gone up 10,000% in 2 days since. Yeah, when it crashed 99%, whenever something crashes 99%, I'm immediately thinking I should go buy that.
Well, yeah.
Yes,
of course.
So I was thinking I should have bought Terra Luna, but Ham Solo is confirming that I should have done that. Woulda, shoulda.
What the hell is Terra Luna?
Buy the dip. Yeah, man, the dip, when it dips 99%. I was trying to buy Gazprom and Rosneft, though.
I don't trust any of this shit.
Yeah, well, have you ever seen the movie The Princes of Yen, or read the book The Princes of Yen?
I'm the old guy that survived the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. I'm just looking at this and I'm like, if I don't have cans of soup and like a mattress full of cash, I don't trust it. I don't.
Yeah, but the mattress full of cash is going to turn into a real barrel full of cash.
I understand that it should be a mattress full of gold.
Well,
I think they're really just trying to trick us into all becoming Bitcoin miners, so we won't even let our children read by a 60-watt LED. We're going to deprive our families of any modicum of electricity, so that we can Bitcoin and farm for Elon, and then one day it all evaporates into the cloudverse. And
that was a story. That was a story that came out yesterday that I saw. I think it's on the Duke Report someplace. I don't know. The Duke Report just is like drinking water out of a fire hose. That the World Economic Forum got an agreement, I think, from all of the central banks that because Bitcoin uses so much energy, that they're going to put a surcharge on all Bitcoin transactions, and they're going to build that into the software. Because of carbon credits. They're going to build carbon credits into the Bitcoin universe. Maybe that's the deal that the Bitcoin people made with the World Economic Forum to keep them from destroying Bitcoin.
It's a smart play, man. If you could have, before like the run of the Weimar Republic, converted all your currency over to a crypto, and then everybody else is running around with wheelbarrows to try to buy a loaf of bread, you're just sitting there going, hey, I know how to do this. I've been mining. My kid can't read, but I've been mining while my kid should have been learning how to read.
Yeah, well, but he can watch TikTok, you know.
Oh, yeah, that makes up for it. He doesn't need education.
I think,
just watch 16-year-old girls by the pool, doing a little dance ad infinitum, 24 hours a day, the rest of your life, and that will be your key to success.
So this is a twofer, Tommy, on the Duke Report. This is a book called The Princes of Yen by Richard Werner. And Richard Werner is at some conference in Scandinavia right now with Catherine Austin Fitz, and I tweeted out a link to that. I think it costs like £20 to 20 euros or something to watch, but I'm sure it'll probably wind up being on YouTube in the next week or two. But he wrote this book, and then this movie got made called The Princes of Yen, which is free. It's on YouTube. And I highly recommend it to anyone who's in any market. I don't care whether or not you're in the stock market or you're buying Bitcoin or any of this stuff. You should watch this movie because it's about how the Bank of International Settlements and the World Bank, which was new at the time, recreated the Japanese economy. And they go from like 1945 to I think the mid 80s when the Asian tiger collapse was engineered in order to basically, which is the model for capturing countries. So basically what happens is that the markets are rigged, the monetary system is rigged, and what they do is that they get governments to overcommit. And once they get the governments to overcommit, then they come in like white knights and they say, hey, we'll rescue you with all these loans and we'll, recapitalize your economy. But in order for us to do that, you have to follow our rules. Basically, it's a way of bureaucratically taking control of governments. And so this is the playbook. The Princes of Yen lays out the financial playbook about the way that the World Bank and the Bank of International Settlements work together with treasuries of countries in order to take control of those countries.
I think that's what we're doing with Ukraine right now. They're getting bulldozed. And we're like,
it's what we're doing. It's what we're doing to ourselves right now.
Yeah. George?
Well, I was just going to say that there's rumors of gold being used as a bargaining tool or whatever, credit collateral. And there's big gold, giant sucking sound out of Ukraine right now, which is usually, hey, that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. Usually it's like you usually collapse the economy after that. Rothschild, I mean, this is the old, hey, Tsar, Napoleon's at the gates. I can see the fires burning. You sure you don't want to go for my usurious interest rate and buy a few more cannon right about now? Grape shot might be a handy thing against that, big infantry. This is the old tried and true method of create fear and get your terms that you want, and then pick up assets for pennies on the dollar.
So here's the tweet. It was Jay Dyer. He said that BlackRock and Citadel borrowed 100,000 Bitcoin from Gemini. It appears in their loan book. They swapped 25,000 of that Bitcoin into T is, it's not Tether, it's the other one that the guy just texted. Let me see. UST, which is another cryptocurrency. This was all done quietly in anticipation of the attack. When the time was right, they called up Do Kwon at Terra, UST is Terra, at Terra Foundation, and said that they wanted to sell a lot of Bitcoin for Terra. As it was a large trade, they told him that they didn't want to move the market, and they asked if he would like to buy their large block of Bitcoin at a discount for Terra. Do Kwon took the bait. He gave them a huge chunk of of Terra, thus lowering the Terra liquidity significantly. And at that point, BlackRock and Citadel dumped all of their Bitcoin and Terra, causing a massive slippage and triggering a cascade of forced selling in both assets. The real problem was BlackRock Citadel knew that Anchor, which holds a lot of Luna, which I think is a subset of Terra, was a Ponzi scheme, and they offered 20% staking APY for Christ's sake. So he goes on in detail here. But again, the reason I brought up Princes of Yen is because this is the kind of thing that when people are market makers, when they control trillions of dollars in assets, that they can go around pulling shenanigans like this. And like you said, Elon Musk can move markets with a tweet. They can move markets with a phone call. And the idea that they're going to the $1 billion, by the way, that they're spending is everybody's 401k money. It's not their money.
And if,
So,
and if you're the,
Well, if you're Pietro Benassi and you have 1,000 talented mules, the 1,000 talents Chinese kids, you just go to 100 metropolitan areas with 10 students and release the Kraken and cause a worldwide financial collapse and buy the assets the day later, pennies on the dollar. Louis Vuitton gets prime commercial real estate for 10 cents on the dollar, becomes the richest man in the world at LVMH or LVM something. And then you have to have a huge party over at the Salk Institute to pay your benefactors. I mean, it's a simple cycle.
yeah,
You know all about that world, Peter.
well, I know about the suitcases, but I'm not sure that I understand the nature of the deal that you're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying, let's say you have a global economy that's a $20 trillion global economy. If I release the Kraken and cause a coronavirus scare, a terror campaign, mostly fear, a little bit of death, but mostly fear, an orange kind of clockwork orange kind of operation, I buy up all the assets, prime real estate assets, for 10 cents on the dollar in major metropolitan areas. And now try to buy Charlie perfume, or I don't even know what Louis Vuitton sells. But hey, that worked out pretty good. I think Louis Vuitton's the richest guy in the world now. He might have been the biggest benefactor. And you were having
Louis Vuitton is the richest man in the world.
I think it's Elon.
or LMVH is the conglomerate.
Yeah.
And that guy, whoever owns that, is supposed to be the richest guy in the world. But it's retail. He's a retail guy that became the richest guy in the world.
I thought Elon was the richest.
No. Well, maybe a single person with the
Well, yeah.
most money.
Yeah, that's what I mean, an individual.
Look at it, Louis Vuitton. You were having
What's the symbol again? LV. Is it LV?
LVMH.
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton MH is what?
M Holding.
Yeah. But he's having a big party at Salk Institute. You want to talk about payback to the guys who came up with the Kraken? I don't know.
And then if you're in the CIA, you've only got to get like the board of directors of BlackRock and Vanguard. You just got to get them at Epstein Island banging some kids. You get video of that. You control them. You control the world. I mean, but really, I mean, when you look at it in terms of like weaponry,
That's Jeff Epstein's MO, man.
but I mean, really, look at it in terms of like weaponry. You know, like artillery or like Maxim machine guns, tanks, artillery, biplanes turning into long-range bombers. After World War II, you go to V-2 rockets, atomic bomb, thermonuclear bomb. You keep moving up to more and more powerful weapons that disproportionately, there are disproportional power projection forces to where now you don't need 10,000 bombers. You just need one missile with one bomb. Even more lethal than that is something as covert as you just get a couple of the movers and shakers of the world, get them out to an island, have video of them sleeping with a 17-year-old that looks 20. You control them. That is more lethal than any bomb there's ever been. So imagine if you're behind Vanguard and BlackRock right now. They're getting all the flack. Everybody's like, oh, it's all BlackRock, Vanguard, Klaus Schwab. Who are the guys behind them that have the damning evidence? Those are the guys that the knife to the throat, and they're just kind of manipulating the world at will.
Tommy, I told everybody a long time ago about the State Department DynCorp tail numbers with Jeff Epstein.
Yeah.
Everybody look the other way. Everybody keeps looking the other way.
Is there any grace in this world? Is there any, can God be found? Is there any peace and fairness and merit in this world? Or are we really living in a fallen society? Are we in hell right now? Because it just seems like everything's so black and corrupted and disgusting and war driven, and it's just the raping of the planet. Like, is there, like, where can we find goodness? Like, where is it really just in like the laughter of a child in a sunset? Is that all it is?
Yep. PeterDukePhoto.com is where there is a.
Damn it, George.
I don't know. I don't know what you mean.
I'm asking an existential question. George is
No, there is a ray of hope. There is a ray of sunshine. I always said we need to train a small dog. That's our challenge here to beat the deep state, because the small dog Toto pulls back the curtain and this thing's over. So it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head. And it's. I think it's the reason that I keep going, and the reason I hope it's the reason why you guys keep doing it, is that when you understand what the nature of the backup just started again, and I caught it.
The brain has activated.
The nature of magic is about bending people's reality. Right. And we are all computers, and we don't realize it, but we use words in order to program ourselves. And words are the code that are used in order to frame the reality that we all experience. Right. And so, what I started to mention at the beginning of the conversation was that this woman, Cara St. Louis, was talking about the idea that all of our history before the Prussian education system kicked in has been basically rewritten, and that the timeline, so a lot of the stuff that we read in history books that we think happened 500 or 600 or 700 years ago didn't actually even happen the way that it's being reported to us. And that's a kind of magic, right? To get you to believe something. And the fact is that when we wander around this planet and we look at things like the pyramids and stuff, and some people say, they're 5,000 years old, but then other scientists, geologists figure out by looking at the way that the water erosion has, eroded the Sphinx, that it must be 20,000 years old. That, like, a lot of this stuff is just made up. Like, a lot of these experts. There's a movie that I watched with Orson Welles that I feature on the Duke Report under the film section called F for Fake. And the whole movie is about how people are fooled by experts. Right. And so where am I going with this? Is that the only control that these people have over us is the idea that we have anointed them with this kind of magical wizard force that we call expert. Why do we listen to anything that Anthony Fauci says?
Yeah,
because he's an expert. Right. And people use that expert. You put somebody in Edward Bernays figured out that if you put somebody in a white coat, like, everybody will do what they say, So how do we deal with it? We have to use our words in order to change the pictures in people's heads, to get them to understand that the people that are being perceived as experts are not. And when they are not perceived as experts, then their power over us goes away. That's a big ask, because I would say that like 95% of the people in the world right now are infected with this mind virus, which is that, these people that we have anointed as experts are actually experts and actually know what they're talking about, instead of they're just manipulating the shit out of us in order to get us to do what they want us to do, so that they can be rich and they can have their parties at the Salk Institute, and Louis Vuitton will probably hand out free purses to everyone, free $5,000 purses to everyone, and they'll all leave thinking they're better than all of us.
There was a beautiful, somebody just commented, enjoy the passing of time and be the change. Yeah, I think that's it. That's one thing. Yeah, enjoy the passing of time and be the change. Yeah, that's
that's kind of what my logic is more. And it's almost like you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's like you can't look at the machinations of the world and then wonder why it's not beautiful. Like you have to look at, like every evening, when I'm finished doing the podcast, like I upload it and I call my mom for like 5 minutes, and then after that I play video games with like my best friend of 22 years, and we just joke about the dumbest shit that we've been joking about for the last 2 decades. And like, no, that's not the rolling out of the next booster program. Like, no, it's not. Is Putin going to go nuclear? But it's just, it's fun, and you kind of ground each other, and why is the inappropriate? But it's not. But sometimes you really, like I can sit here and like we can shoot the shit and laugh and talk about how Elon's use of flamethrowers is like that's him getting red-handed. He's caught red-handed. He is the Antichrist. Sometimes you do have to change the world in the little way that you can. And yet, if you're gonna look at the big picture, you're gonna get depressed, because that image is dark, but you can just make your own little universe a little bit better. And like, yeah, you have to find meaning in that. If you don't, you'll go insane.
Well, I'll tell you, my takeaway here absolutely is either Scottish Terrier or Yorkshire Terrier. I can't remember which one Toto was.
We trained that dog.
We're going to need 11 of them, because Peter told me that you get 10 blasts on the Elon Musk flamethrower, and the first 10 Totos are going down.
Hey,
but that 11th Toto, man, gets through, and we win this thing.
The first 10 is the first 10 waves of World War I. But once the machine guns are overheated and they can't mow down the doughboys anymore, that 10th guy, he's going to run across with a Luger. He's going to take that trench.
We need 10 Scottish Terriers.
I will say this, in my own world, every day I in the morning I walk to the gym. It's like a 2-minute walk, and I always walk by this like little pond. There are all these geese there, and they always hiss at me because they have a bunch of babies, and they think I'm coming to take their babies or some shit. And so recently I've been I bought a loaf of bread, and now in the morning when I walk by, I throw them a little bit of bread. And on the first day it was just like, oh, it's just like it's the little things in life. I get to feed these geese. But after a couple of days, I've realized they still hiss at me. And so now I've kind of changed my mind, and instead of it being the little things in life, now I'm just establishing dominance. What I'm doing is I'm bringing bread, and I only give it to the smallest, the little baby geese. And to me, it's a huge flex. It's providing for their kids in a way they can't in front of them. And I just do that every day. And I hope I'm tearing apart these geese households. I hope I'm just cucking them as I walk in, and I'm like, "Hey, is that your wife?"
So you become Satan, is what you're saying. You're doing to them what they're doing to us.
I've become a dark lord. But am I really? Because I'm providing food for these little geese. But I'm just coming up to them like, "That your mom? That your dad?" Hey, big dick energy. I bring home the bacon, and I give them the food, and I let them know who's boss.
Yeah, and one day you'll make them into foie gras.
Yeah, one day they'll attack me. They'll kill me. One day
Louis Vuitton could learn a lot from you, Tom. Let me tell you. The awards dinner with the gift bags, to-go gift bags, would be a whole lot better if you would be doing the catering. But with that, gentlemen, I'm at a very inexpensive hostel, and I'm keeping up a whole bunch of motorcyclists from Germany.
I thought you came back to America.
No, I'm heading toward the front, back to the front. Oh, by the way, did you know Hemingway didn't get the country that he was in correct for Farewell to Arms? He thought he was in Italy, and actually he was in Slovenia. This is tough enough, right, to do the war correspondent thing. But now I gotta be the fact checker for Hemingway. Come on, man!
You're trying to carry the cross.
Hemingway.
Well, dark journalist Daniel List, he goes deep on Hemingway. There's a lot of like weird things about Hemingway. Did you know that after Cuba fell, JFK, one of his first like undercover operations that he worked with with the CIA was like getting Hemingway's archives out of Cuba?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on with Hemingway.
Well, let me just tell you, I hate having to pick up for him here when I'm trying to do war reporting.
You're trying to do work and I'm cleaning up your shit, Hemingway.
And did he ever go after the deep state one day? You know what? If as an ambulance driver, you know what they really did? First of all, they weren't doughboys getting machine gunned. They delivered chocolates for the most part to hospitals, and they gave them to nurses. Wow, that's really rough duty. And everybody's writing novels about them when we're doing real war reporting. Give me a break, Hemingway fans. Stop throwing Hemingway in my face and learn your countries, Ernest. Learn your countries.
Well, you and Hemingway both write very short sentences, which is good.
You know, I'm sick of Hemingway. I think this is bullshit.
Somewhere in the distance, a dog, and then I'm just too tired to finish the sentence.
I'm
Somewhere in the distance, a dog did something.
I don't know. I'm a little upset with Hemingway now. You know,
You should be.
You know, maybe I am providing evil to these geese. Maybe the geese are talking and they're like, you know what? That asshole walks by every day, gives food to our kids, shows us up in front of our wives that we can't provide. Is there any grace in the world? And the other geese is going, yeah, you know, we just gotta, it's in our own little world. We gotta be nice to each other. We gotta train 11 dogs to go fucking pull back the whatever. Maybe I'm just being dark.
No, you need a little Elon Musk flamethrower, and that'll establish some dominance with those geese.
No, I was thinking, I was like, well, I mean, the reality is this: is I could pick up one of those geese and swing it around like a mace. I mean, I could break its neck, and right, but I don't do that. I think true power isn't going over there with a shovel and killing them. Anybody can do that. I'm mentally ruining them. I'm not firing a shot. I'm walking over there. I'm like, these are your kids. It's cold out, huh? I'm the breadwinner.
You're going to get a call from the CIA, and
these geese are going to start following me around.
They're going to say, we want you for
these
the Central Intelligence Agency.
These geese are going to start following me around, saying, and they're going to start squawking like, "Mama, mama," and I'm just going to look the parents in the eyes.
We've been trying to figure out how to train people to be psychopaths for a long time.
Yeah, but in the end,
we're going to start with geese.
But in the end, isn't what I'm doing with bread what the government does with social programs?
Yeah, but so you're
pithy.
You're goose food. So you're recreating.
I'm LBJ.
You're just mirroring the behavior. Is it like the child molester who was child molested? So
yeah,
you know.
So I need to break the cycle. I need to not give these geese bread.
Yeah,
or just have them for dinner. And, stop
How
torturing
about releasing like 11 small Yorkshire Terriers amongst them? That would be a little bit exciting.
Or I could take a page out of George's book, and instead I'll spray these geese with a lab-made virus, and I'll track their movements. And then I'll get the antibodies and sell monoclonal.
Smart dust.
Maybe
you're talking like a true Benassi now, and I'm proud of you.
Talking like a true psychopath now.
With that, I don't want to keep the German cycling team up. So
that's okay. We're going to let you go, George.
Tell the German cycling team they suck. No. All right.
He left us.
That was cold. That was cold.
No, I think that people are probably looking at him like, they're
probably like
kill him or something.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like 9 a.m. there, whatever.
He said it was. It's 9. It's what time is it?
No, it's only what? How far? It's 5:30 Eastern. It's probably like what? It's probably like 11 in Germany.
Hey Google, what time is it in Slovenia?
I thought he was in Germany.
It's 11:34.
I was right. I said it's probably like 11. Well, that was my small win.
All right, well, that was great, Tommy, and congratulations on your Peter Dale Scott.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Oh yeah. Producer Carrie wants to know whether or not we should add you to the psychopath organizations list on the Duke Report.
I guess so. I mean, clearly.
I'm not sure about that.
Am I a psychopath though? Because although I'm doing it for bad reasons, are the little geese not being fed? Realpolitik, are they not getting food in their bellies? Are these the loops that you will eat bugs? You will eat the bread and be. Are these the loops that
sound a little bit like Zbigniew Brzezinski?
I was gonna say, are these the loops that Klaus plays in his head? Like, I am doing the right thing. Like Hitler had to think he was doing the right thing. Man. You know, it's
Oh,
like
man.
it's like those old sayings, like you can find the answers to the universe in like a grain of sand. I can find like all the like themes of geopolitics in the world just by walking to the gym and throwing bread to geese. You can find it all.
Well,
I got
I
nothing.
used to ride my bike to the gym, and I can't anymore because I live in California, and unless I can show them my vaccination, proof of vaccination, they won't let me in. So,
Yeah, you should ride your bike there and then just do push-ups and body weight outside.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
That's all. I got.
Battle rope. They should just put the battle rope back outside.
Keep going, Tommy. Thank you, Pat Marson.
All right. So how do people take care of you, Tommy?
Me? Go subscribe on Rumble.
Go subscribe on
Just
Rumble.
do that.
And when you talk to the guy who runs Rumble, tell him that he's got to get his RSS feed fixed so that
Rumble won't respond to me. I've been trying to email them nonstop, the higher ups. I'm like, hey, let me help you build this program, and they just don't.
Right. So Jason Burmis is like a heavyweight on Rumble, and I talked to him on my show, and I told him you got to get the RSS feed fixed, and then you also can't. Well, I guess the live streaming, if you pay them like $100 a month or something, you can stream. Right.
Anything. No, it's they told Rogan that they'd sign him for $100 million for 4 years. So I sent him an email and said, you can sign me for 1/1000th of that.
Right.
They never responded. $100,000 for 4 years. That's how much I was selling myself for.
Yeah, Ham Solo. It seems like Ham Solo made a lot of money on Luna or Terra this week. So he said he's going to send some money.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Send some money to Rumble. I don't know. Ham Solo, subscribe to my podcast on Rumble. Trying to make them work. No. I don't want to make them work for it. I want them to do the bare minimum. I want them to do nothing. I want to show that I can provide. I alone. I am Klaus. And this is the great.
You might have to make your haircut a little tighter.
The great Geese-et.
To go full Klaus.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to go full fact on your resume. Have these geese learn something before you give them bread.
No. I want them to be dumb and stupid. I want them to be an uneducated populace so I can continue to run the world. Their little world.
Indeed.
I'm losing.
Believe something that's not true.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm losing my mind. I'm gonna.
All right. Well, with that, I'm gonna roll
We'll wrap this bitch up.
Should I play George Carlin one more time? No, I'm not gonna do that.
You can play it out.
All right, and then I'll say goodnight to everybody. Say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. Peter, thanks for having me on, man.
All right.
Take care,
All right,
everybody.
go to the Duke Report. Buy me a coffee. Bye.
Peace.
The planet